Good evening. We'll now call February 10th, 2026, special joint meeting of the West Richland City Council and Planning Commission to order at 5:30. Before we get started, we'll ask our city clerk Stephanie to call the roll for City Council and Planning Commission. Stephanie?
Thank you. Richard Bloom,
Here.
David Cole,
Here.
David Feta,
Here.
Ken Stoker,
Here.
don't see Councilmember Moran or Councilmember Smart. I will note if they arrive. Mayor Brink is in Olympia for an EWC event. Okay. Dan
Present.
Nancy Aldridge, present. Colton Brady, Michael Peterson, Denise Slaughter,
Present.
and Chad Newton. And Jared Drutter.
We have a motion from council to excuse those absent or Ms. Moran, Councilmember Moran. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
She's here.
She's here. Cancel that. All right.
I guess, should we excuse the mayor?
I guess we can excuse the mayor. Yeah.
I would excuse the mayor.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Then we also have a motion to excuse the planning commission members that are absent.
Have they called in to ask to be excused?
Jared.
Just Jared.
I make a motion to excuse Derek.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Stephanie. I'll now turn the meeting over to City Council Mayor Pro Tem Bloom to conduct the business of the City Council. Planning Commission, only City Council is to vote on these agenda items. Mayor Pro Tem Bloom.
Thank you, Chair O'Neill. Council, tonight's agenda includes resolution of 26, authorizing the mayor to sign the first amendment to reimbursement of Frank Hicks LLC, Lewis and Clark Ranch, EIS. Second item is motion to authorize the mayor to execute professional services contract with FCS Group regarding water system rate model and WSB financial chapter. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to comment on the consent agenda? I see no one present. I don't see anybody raising, please raise your,
We won't be having virtual comments tonight. We don't have the ability to do that.
okay. All right, so we'll move on. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. All those in, any discussion? All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Ordinances, resolutions, or motions, public hearings. Ordinance. 0226, amending the 2025-2026 biennium budget. Item 4A is an ordinance amending the 2025-2026 biennium budget. Aaron, will you present the staff report?
So actually presenting the staff report for both the ordinance and the resolution, they go together.
Yeah.
Resolution is for an interfund loan.
Okay, so it should be the resolution first.
It's in there together, so,
Okay, well, let's
okay.
try it.
That's fine. All right, thank you. Good evening, council, citizens. This evening, I'm presenting the fixed budget amendment of the 25-26 final budget, as well as establishing an interfund loan from the 002 cumulative reserve fund to the 301 REAP 1 fund. This budget amendment affects 6 funds. In the general fund, this amendment addresses 2 items. The first is in regards to the Lewis and Park Ranch Comprehensive Master Plan. We're recognizing revenue from Swedes LLC in the amount of $108,870 and increasing appropriations for the same amount. for contracted services for consulting. The second item is in regards to the contract with FCS Group to address House Bill 1110 in regard to providing additional scalability and equity to the park impact fee. This amendment appropriates an additional $5,902 from the general fund for contract assistance. In the 002 Cumulative Reserve Fund and the 301 REAP 1 Fund, we're establishing an interfund loan for the State Route 224 project. This project is being funded by a state grant on a reimbursement basis. The project is currently in the construction phase and there are some large vendor payments being processed. And the interfund loan will be used for cash flow purposes as needed. This amendment recognizes loan revenue not to exceed $3.6 million, as well as appropriates a repayment for the same amount plus interest at the interest rate of 3.76%. In Fund 302, this amendment revises expenditure allocations for existing projects and establishes a new project, the Bombing Range Road Overlay Project. This amendment recognizes grant revenue from the Transportation Improvement Board in the amount of $787,655 for the new project and appropriates an additional $685,138. And these last two funds are in Fund 441, Water System Development Fund, and Fund 442, Sewer System Development Fund, for contract services with the FCS Group to complete the water system plans financial chapter and the water rate study, as well as update the water and sewer system development charges to ensure legal compliance. This amendment appropriates $89,671 dollars from Fund 441 and $13,724 from Fund 442. Staff recommends passing the attached ordinance for the budget amendment and the resolution for the interfund loan. The amendment authorizes an increase in the 25-26 appropriations in the amount of $8,039,910 and recognizes an increase in resources in the amount of $8,136,525, bringing the revised budget to $167,389,704.
Okay, council, may I have a motion? Or note there are two motions to come, but I'll take one or the other of both. Which one do you want to start first?
Ordinance first.
Ordinance first.
I move to pass ordinance 02-26, amending the city of West Richland 2025-2026 biennial budget.
Second.
I'll take a second.
Second.
You want to hold at the same time?
Sorry.
Anyone have any comments that, questions that weren't previously asked or answered?
Yep, so Roscoe, I wanted to ask you about when's the last time the Bombing Range Road was overlaid? And would this funding be something that funds that work soon or?
So Bombing Range Road was last at a preservation project when we did that rubberized chip seal probably
When was that? Okay, I'm
8
sorry.
to 10 years ago. No,
Okay.
It's been a while. And we, at the same time, we did Keene Road. And so that is a new TIV grant that we just received. And so it wouldn't be, this year, it's next year's.
Would be next year.
Next year,
So
yeah.
is it your assessment that we're ready for that?
Yeah, so we have a pavement preservation program that we do assessments out there. And TIV is it's a competitive program. And so you have to hit the window, not too soon or not too late that it needs to rebuild. So we've hit the sweet spot here. This year we'll be paving Keene Road with TIV, next year's Bombing Range, that section.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ordinance passed, I'll take the resolution.
I move to pass resolution 04-26, establishing an interfund loan from 002 Cumulative Reserve Fund to 301 REIT 1 Fund.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions that, need to be asked? Okay. With that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. This concludes the city council action for the evening. Mr. O'Neill, I'll turn it back to you for the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Bloom. Our next item of business is a presentation on Lewis and Clark Ranch sub-area code, followed by a discussion on the questions submitted to staff to date. Director Mendenhall, will you please get us started?
Thank you, Sarah O'Neill. I'm going to turn the time to Omeza, who is joining us on the Zoom link. She's been working with us on this. Brook Consulting was hired to assist in the EIS work and to assist in developing the development regulations. These development regulations did go out to you about a week and a half ago, so it gave you sufficient time for review and provide comment. I did receive comment from Mr. Smart, which was my responses to those comments were sent out earlier this evening, and but we'll address those towards the end. Oneza will go ahead and go through the summary and review of the development regulations, and then we'll get into this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And it's nice to be here this evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. Casey from work also is here, and she is moving the slides, and she's managing the project. So Casey, let's go to the next slide. So overall, I would like to start by saying that this development regulations would implement your vision for the Lewis and Clark sub-area plan. It's similar to how your zoning code works. So it's gonna provide zoning standards for homes and commercial areas and open spaces and all of that. It's this document, the intent of this document or objective of this document is to make it easy to implement with better predictability, easy to navigate. So for example, all the standards are in one place, including zoning and then street standards. So and we have also added illustrations for people to understand it better. Let's go to the next slide. So overall, this code, this development regulations are grouped into 4 major components: administration, and we'll go over those all. But overall, it's the administration. These are standard sections: zoning and building types, zoning standards, building standards, frontage standards. Like I said, it combines all of those components into one place. So street connectivity and block standards and open space standards, and we have added some additional neighborhood standards. Let's go to the next slide. So administration, like in any zoning code, it talks about purpose and applicability, and it also identifies or implements the zoning districts. So let's go to the next slide. And then zoning and building types. So this is where we have the overall standards for each zoning district. So we have, so you have looked at your document already. There are 5 zoning districts. So this is also providing zoning codes land use matrix, and it's referring to your existing code metrics that we are referring, and some of the building and development types by zone. So let's go to the next slide so we could look into that. This includes zoning map, so it shows what types of zones and where it would apply. You have seen this many times, but it will be part of the development regulations, or part of the code. Let's go to the next slide. So this one, this identifies some of the core intersections for this the sub area that this is how it connects with it's not your typical land use and zoning, but it connects your street and zoning into one place. So this is another example of how it will be helpful for developers or development community. Let's go to the next slide. So again, an example of how the zoning districts are categorized, and we have illustrations and pictures to show what the zoning districts would mean. So in the physical context, how they would look like, and we believe that this would give better predictability and understanding of what the zones are. We're looking at MUCC, MUT, which is transition, mixed residential, MXR, and then mixed use light industrial, and then community parks in CP. Let's go to the next slide. And zone standards. So this is more overall. This is talking about lot standards. So specific standards by zone. So let's say I'm in MUCC zone. What are the lot standards in that? What are the building types? How do you mix different uses if it is a mixed use? Setbacks in that zoning district, and then how the building relates to the street. And then parking standards are referring to your municipal code parking standards. Next slide. So building standards, these are also going to help development community understand what types of buildings or developments would be. So these are the standards of various development types. It could be commercial buildings, mixed-use buildings, single-family or townhomes, single-family detached. So we are adding some standards and some illustrations for that. And then it also includes standards for mixed-use buildings that would also provide additional clarity for the development community. We have illustrations that you have seen already. Let's go to the next slide. So these are some of the examples. It's like, what does it mean when we are talking about mixed-use building, and what type of standards should there be? And when we're talking about commercial building, residential building, so different building types would have different standards. So this illustrations and some standards are added in this code. Next slide. And we have added some additional standards for mixed-use developments that would apply to specific zoning districts. And generally, like mixed-use buildings can be unclear to the development community. So how we're showing is with illustrations and diagrams that if it's a large mix of use, it could be horizontal, it could be vertical. So we have those illustrations there. And then also it adds standards for mixed use light industrial in the code.
Vanessa, can I pause you for a moment?
Yes.
I just want to point out too that upper right illustration could very well be a big box store there behind with some restaurants or retail along the public street there that's to the south or to the bottom of that image. That would be very similar to what you would see, for instance, at Queensgate. Now Queensgate's developed out, so definitely opportunities for that in the code and being able to make that work. Just want to make sure I address that concern that was shared previously by council and planning commission.
Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So frontage standards, this is again, it addresses the transition space between homes and buildings. So most of the time, the gap in the zoning codes is that area that has that public right of way, it's not clear to the development community. In this code, we are clarifying that. We have, so the city has worked with, Public Works and Planning have worked together in this. So this clarifies where is your right of way, where the easements are going to be, and consistent with that, what type of frontages could go into the developments. So this also gives a predictability, better predictability for the development community. Let's go to the next slide. And this shows some of the examples of what frontage types are there. I mean, we see frontages all the time. We see the typical porch in a residential home. We see shop front in the commercial developments, but this one gives more clear understanding of different frontage types. So this talks about 6 different frontage types in the code, but it also shows how it looks in the layout and so these are just examples of the elevation and layout. So this would help understand and where the right of way falls, all those. Let's go to the next slide. Street connectivity and block standards. So so any developments would need to address various street types. So here we are including various street types and how developments actually relate to the arterial street versus local street type of development. So if it's an arterial street, building could be a little different compared to if it's a local street. And then there will be standards, public works standards tied with this document. And then also we are in this code is talking about street network, alleys, driveways, so how the connectivity in this area should work, and then how the blocks should work. And let's go to the next slide to show some of the examples. For example, there are some different, or I would say more flexible ways of adding shared driveway for I would say single family lots versus the zero lot lines. So that's a couple of examples on the left side, and then on the right side, these are talking about block length, different. So these are illustrations, but it also goes along with a table that talks about different block length and width for different types of zoning. And then also if it's alleyway, then how would that look like? And if there's no alleyway, then how this would look like. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so that was so this is basically open space and standards that talks about public open space and private open space. So your public open spaces are primarily parks, but we have categorized them based on the planning of the sub-area as civic edge, greenways. You have wonderful greenway connections now in the sub-area plan, squares, large open spaces, and then private open space could come when developers are proposing. Those could be in the form of plaza, courtyard, private neighborhood parks, or mid-block connections. So let's go to the next slide. So these are some of the examples of how greenways, so these are on the left side, you see the street network and you see the blocks, and in between blocks there are greenways, and in the middle there's a square that we have seen in many communities. It's a central area where people could gather. And the large open space is on the right side, and this is directly taken from your sub-area plan. So when you have large open space, that would be also addressed in this code. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is the last portion of the code, and in this we have just added some additional standards like gateways. If developers are putting gateways in the neighborhoods, or landscaping and lighting. So lighting, we're mostly referring that or connecting that with the West Richland, with your current code. Landscaping, the intent is that to encourage more native and drought tolerant landscaping so that it is sensitive to the local climate. So that's also is giving the understanding of the type of development. But this is the last piece of the standards. So I think that's it, Casey. Can we go to the next? Yeah, thank you. And I know that this is a a brief presentation. And if you have any questions, we are here for that.
Thank you, Juaneza, appreciate that. So as I stated, I did send this out a week and a half ago requesting for comments and questions. So we can address those this evening and make it a productive meeting. I did get comments from Mr. Smart last night. So I changed my day around a little bit today so I can get those comments addressed. We can go through those quickly. I did email my responses out to both planning commission and city council, so you have those in your mailboxes and can see those. So item 1 was referencing 1.1.2, which is the purpose and applicability. Number 1 there, John was recommending adding suburban to urban elements. And staff's not recommending that because everything in our comp plan and our state law refers to like an urban growth boundary. It's our urban area. It's not really this reference to suburban. So staff's not recommending that be changed. 1.1.2, number 2, he's requesting to include guided development of a variety of neighborhood types, including mixed use neighborhoods where daily activities can occur. So adding the language there, a variety of neighborhood types. Staff's okay with that language. I think that would be fine. Because so that's what we're proposing to do, to provide a variety of neighborhoods and types of neighborhoods.
So Eric, I appreciate you going through these. I would have 2 suggestions. 1, this is a long list.
Sure.
And by the way, I just want to make sure to make clear, I have no expectation you're going to try to like answer all these before this meeting, but I appreciate your effort. That's awesome. And sorry I was so late, but I figured better late than never. So
I appreciate it.
And I did spend a day going through this entire document, word by word. So I'm hoping that that's of some use. So first I would suggest that we maybe open the floor to other people that have other questions to get those out of the way before we go through all of this. I would just,
I was just going
offer that. And then the second thing is I actually had some comments about each of these brief chicken scratch question notes that I put together. So I appreciate the opportunity just to add those to each one as we go along, without taking up the whole 2 hours or however long we're supposed to be.
I'd like to go through them myself,
Yeah.
because I'd like to see,
I do want to go through them.
I'd like to go have them,
Okay.
I'd like to have them go through them.
Yeah, that was my thought. I mean, John, you did take the day to review these,
Yeah, I
so
did.
you put the effort into providing this before the meeting. I think it's only fair that you get the floor first, I go through these.
I don't want to take the whole floor, but I just want to say the first one, I don't want to brush over them too much. I want to mention that, you know, this code, these zones do allow for single family residential homes on 1 acre. That is, in my opinion, a suburban environment, not an urban environment. So I hate to predispose the entire document to an urban environment when we have clear potential for very extensive suburban areas. So that was my thought process. It just didn't seem accurate to just say we're promoting an urban environment, you know. And I think West Richland citizens also hope to be able to have a future city that has both urban and suburban environments. So that would be a comment to go with that. So feel free to continue. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna jump on to the next one, because you said staff agrees with that. That's something that I'll pass along to the consultant team to make adjustments for, because I believe unless there's some animosity towards it, some, you know, things that adding variety of neighborhood types, that language would be inappropriate.
Can I piggyback on that a minute? What jumped to my mind was, are we allowing gated communities?
That's a question.
Actually, that's that question. Good question.
The next question, or the next comment/question, was a reference to page 1-6, 1.1.2. All properties within where a requirement exists for the topic and other sections, the requirement shall prevail. This applies to Lewis Park Ranch, right? That is correct. It does apply to this, only to this. That's what that language is there for. To make sure there's some clarification that if there's any, because not all code can be made perfect all at the same time. It's like making sausage, and it doesn't always come out as pretty as you hope it would. We wanted to make sure that, what we're trying to accomplish here doesn't get, messed up by something else that would mess it up. Number 4, 1.2, improvements, modifications, or expansions, should qualify the improvements to equal a certain percentage of the structure value. I suggest 35%. Improvements in value provide sufficient flexibility. My comment on that is all improvements, modifications, or expansions will be greater than 35%, because currently it's farmland. And then that standard for any is the standard for any development within the city, because if you're gonna pull a permit, for instance, put an addition on a home, doesn't matter if it's we don't go look at the valuation of it, it's.
So I guess
you trigger a permit or you don't, and so that's kind of the purpose.
I guess what I didn't know is, are there any structures or developments out in this area at all? I mean, this is for the entire Lewis and Clark Ranch.
In phase 1, there are 0 structures except for pivots.
Okay.
If you wanna call those structures. They're expensive, but I don't know they're technically a structure. There are homes on the property.
Yeah.
But those are outside of phase 1.
And this covers phase 1 and 2, right, or not?
Well,
I mean, it's obviously, we're a long way.
this covers phase.
Just phase 1, okay.
The zoning covers the whole entire property. These development standards apply to phase 1. But they're most likely gonna be carbon copied for phase 2 in some form or fashion, right?
That was my concern.
Yeah. Okay. 3.2. Unless you have more comments.
No, that's good. I mean, if we're prepared to accommodate those individuals, if they think they need a combination at the time, which is like 70 years from now, then maybe we can readdress it then.
Yeah, I imagine they will.
Okay.
There are currently, the property is all under one ownership. That could change too.
Yeah. Gotcha.
3.2, page 3-18, sketches that depict the written description, which would be helpful. We actually do that. If you go back 2 pages to 3-16, there's the illustrations.
Yeah, I saw that. I was thinking that I guess I had a hard time, and maybe it's just me, correlating some of those sketches to some of the language in the table.
Okay.
So, I mean, I could just go in for an education session with you, maybe others might need it or not.
Sure.
Or we could add little sketches to correlate to those, or somehow reference them better. I don't know, it's just
And
it's not technical comment, it's just
yeah.
structural thought.
And as I've stated before, my office is always open to planning commissioners and to the council for any questions that you guys have all on the way. Happy to sit down and I've met with many of you already. 3.3, question 6, page 3-1. Why not allow single-family detached homes in the MUT? This would express that we allow the higher density types, but that we don't require higher density. To date, this hasn't been a topic of desire for this district and has been a focal point of the property owner and feedback from the community at the charrette that we had for this area to be more focused for middle housing and apartments, not detached and single family residential. Most of phase 1 allows for detached single family residential. So if you look at the area size, most of it's yellow, most of it would allow for that detached single family. So this is providing an opportunity for that other housing, right? So that's not recommended.
So my point there was that, this wouldn't preclude the type of housing that you're dreaming of right now, the higher density, townhouses and so forth. But it would avoid having to have somebody come in and change the code. If a future market decided that, well, hey, you know, this 5 acres, we really would like to be single family detached homes. And so it doesn't restrict anything, it just opens it.
But to go back to a conversation that I had, and we've had a couple of examples of this in our community already. One being down off Bombing Range where the property was zoned a certain zone and they tried to zone it to business. And the neighbors came out with the pitchforks and torches and said, don't do that. And they didn't. It's easier to go back and zone down zone the property to be yellow, for instance, if the market's not really here for the MUT, and we need to change it to create more yellow in the future, it's an easier ask to go from that orange to yellow than it is to go from yellow to orange, right? And so that's why we have it set up this way, is because it's gonna be easier for us to come back and make a map amendment to change that in the future than to do something now about it and not get what the market we have offered otherwise. But again, this is a live document.
Yeah.
It's not binding until an application comes in that says I'm gonna build this, right? So we can change things and modify things and massage it as the market kind of shows us what it should be. But really what we're trying to do and why it's set up the way it is to be very flexible and fluid for the market to be able to juice things and not be so prescriptive and detailed, right?
Exactly, that's what I
So-
was actually being less prescriptive here by allowing different uses that don't preclude the urban environment that you're planning for.
Sure.
All right.
Number 7, 4.2, single family detached open space, yard minimum should be no less than 500 square feet. My comment on that, that would not be feasible on all lot configurations as proposed. Right now, we've got potential for very small lots, and having an accommodation requirement of 500 square feet may not allow for certain housing types that the developer or markets for wanting to provide for that area. So staff's not recommending changes to that.
Yeah, and let me just comment on that because it applies to the next several, or to the number of them. I think we have a grand opportunity here to serve our citizens of the future and maybe put a little bit more of a squeeze on our multi-billionaire developers to provide them with a little more yard space on all of these housing opportunities. In a community that has 22 square miles of land to fill. Like, we are not facing a land shortage here. Now, I understand that it's gonna cost the developer an extra couple $1,000 per property if we add, 500 square feet of yard instead of whatever it was before, 100 or 200. But this is our opportunity at this point to serve our citizens and give them a more luxurious, if you want to call it that, or higher capacity yard than what these current specifications are allowing developers to develop. And I just think that if you're going to, we've had this conversation before. If you let a developer, if you set a set of standards, you don't put building standards out there, for example, they're gonna build a cardboard house. They're gonna sell it for a maximum profit. But we have standards that we do implement to prevent that from happening. And that's the nature of this comment. It's not to be nitpicky, but it's to give people an opportunity to have more than a 10 by 10 foot area of lawn. Or if they want to turn it into concrete, fine, but nevertheless, it's an option versus such a small, some of these were 100 square feet, I'm thinking like, you can barely plant a decent garden in 100 square feet. So I don't know, I wanted to bring that to this group's attention as an opportunity to be a little more, maybe do be a little more prescriptive and actually force these developers to give our citizens a little more yard space, even in these little tiny, apartments or houses or whatever, apartments, various types. So that was my purpose of doing this. You'll see that comment several times through here. Just want to make that explanation.
I think the beauty of this code being for this piece of land means that the existing part of the city can stay 2.5 acres, 5 acres, 1 acre lots, 500 square foot or bigger lawn spaces. Because those people who want to spend the extra, when you start talking going from 4,000 square foot lot up to 6,000 square foot lot, you're talking 50 grand in purchasing power, maybe more, depending on the market continues to grow. The beauty of this is this is isolated to that section in the future growth, but the existing city is protected. So for the people who want to drive by alpacas and the council meeting the last time we met, we're gonna preserve that part of the city by having this code, so that the state doesn't come in and say, well, now you have to go down to higher density,
Oh,
because we're gonna provide it already.
I think they will.
Well, you're right, they probably will
Protecting
anyway.
us from anything.
You're right, they probably
No.
will.
No, I mean, plus all of West Richland now, you're talking about places that are already developed. See, you're talking about potentiality of somebody coming in and raising, you know, a group of 4 homes and putting apartments in.
No, we have, there's a ton of open land that are 5-acre lots that could,
Okay.
if we change that code,
Yeah.
could be 30 houses on a.
And I'm not talking about
Ironwood and, you know.
10,000 or 1,000 square foot more in this case, and all of these cases that will come up, I'm just adding a couple hundred square feet.
But Joe, I want to jump in there. I mean, the townhomes, which I owned one, it was a 2,700 square foot lot. It had a nice patio that had actually had a lawn. Unfortunately, the rules down in Las Vegas said you had to rip up the lawn and put in rock. So, water conservation.
Well, and that's what,
But none of this prohibits the developer for having common space.
right,
And so that's the key. And the market will drive what the developer develops. And so, yeah,
okay, so. I have to agree with David, we've got a city here that has 1 to 5, I live on an acre lot, I have 5-acre lots in my neighborhood. We have them up on Lemon Heights, we have this 10,000 square foot lot, we have 15,000 square foot lots, it's in the existing part of the city. If you look at what, and my son is looking for wants to build a house. They're looking for, and he's been looking at houses. You're looking for the smaller size lots. They don't want to mow. They don't want to come home from work and mow. And with the fact that we live in the desert, water rights are getting more scarce. You're gonna go with the xeriscaping. So a 500 square foot, however you want, is, I think, sufficient for in that development. That's the way that the developer would like to use his piece of property and that type of, and developing it that way. I think that I have to agree with David. You know?
I have to agree too. I grew up on 2.5 acres and I wanted a small front yard and backyard that I could go out and mow. And my dad even offered to sell me the property. I said, Dad, I grew up taking care of it. I don't want to take care of it now. So, I mean, I like my little front yard, my little backyard that I could go mow. I don't want a bunch of land.
I think that the thing with this is that if we're putting in a minimum, then we're actually limiting what's allowed. Because we're saying you can't have less than this. But if we don't have a minimum, then we are actually allowing more choice so that the markets can decide what people want. Because we do have the bigger lots that are available still. It's just in this particular section. People can have smaller if they want to. The people that I built my home with, they told me that they would not allow me to build a smaller home than what I had because of the size of my lot. I want that freedom and I want other people to have that freedom too.
I hear you and I generally agree with letting the market bear the responsibility of making what they want. I also have heard from Eric and others in the past in the city, if you don't place some restrictions on what a developer, whether it be commercial or residential, can build, they will go with the cheapest option, right? You've told me this many times. This was the argument behind the commercial building regulations and not letting them just build metal boxes for our commercial areas. So I'm wondering why that same thing doesn't apply here, because I'm not really stretching or asking a lot here, but you know, the difference between a 10 by 10 versus a 10 by 20, I don't know. If the group, obviously I'm not dictating anything here, but those are the points that I was thinking of when I thought that this might be the opportunity to give somebody who has a cottage house or certainly a single family detached house. Something more than I can't find that in my thing. What was the original square footage on the single family? For a yard? For open space?
Open space.
Yeah, I don't have it printed out.
Minimum is 100 square feet.
It's 100.
Yeah.
So you've got a house that's how many square feet? Maybe up to 2,000 or something. I tried to do the calculation of the size of the lot depth and width. And then how much, with the setbacks, how much house could you actually put there with the garage? It depends on the size of the garage and so forth. But you know, it looked like maybe, if I remember right, an average size house for a lot like that, if you had, you know, 10 to 15 feet between homes, would end up being like a maximum of like 1,700 square feet perhaps. Does anybody know, do you remember what you were thinking when you thought about detached single family homes on
John,
smaller lots?
We do need to get moving on. I'm gonna try to address your concern a bit too. So for, on 4.2, if you go down on the lot coverage. So lot coverage, we're looking at, wall areas. So what the house, what the garage occupies, if you've got a shed, those kinds of things.
Right.
So, maximum lot coverage is 50%. So I don't know that that's gonna require what would necessarily qualify as open space, which might be like landscaped area and whatnot. But if you've got a 3,500 square foot lot size, you're only gonna be able to build 750 square foot footprints on that lot. So maybe that resolves your concerns a little bit, I don't know, but that's the way the code's written. I'm gonna go ahead and move on though, and.
Okay, so the open space then is really more regulated by that 50% coverage than the actual.
To me, I think so, because I don't think the developer is gonna leave to pave the whole thing.
Right.
Right, not that that's not open space.
I was gonna say that's open space.
Now, it could be open space for somebody, not me, that's not what I qualify personally as open space, I want to reads something. But I guess, you know, but maybe, I don't know.
All right, well, that's what I was trying to do in all of these subsequent questions, trying to visualize what this development's gonna look like.
So,
If I could, can I jump in to this discussion for a minute? Yeah.
Yes, please.
So I would like to add that I hear that the open space discussion. So the reason we have the private open space to these dimensions, so that sometimes it's like, let's say you have five feet setback, and developer would come in and take that as an open space. So this is an idea that you have a usable open space. So it's not like too narrow and not usable. So that was the intent behind that. I don't know if that answers any of the discussion, but also Eric was right when the maximum lot coverage 50%, so the remaining area could be considered as part of the private open space.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah.
Item number 8, 4.2, single family detached, minimum lot area should be stated, suggest 4,000 square feet. We're already regulating those through the minimum lot width and the lot depth. So for alley loaded, it's 25 feet lot width with a depth of 75 feet and a minimum width of 50 feet for front loaded. And a lot of that is to make sure that Roscoe's got plenty of space in the front yard to have a water meter and utilities placed so that they can serve that home for the 50 feet and the 25 feet. But with those, that establishes what that lot size would be. Minimum lot size would be. Number 9, 4.2, single family detached accessory dwelling unit should require accommodations for additional on-site parking. That's already covered in table 1757-2 in our Westchester Municipal Code. So we didn't see a need to duplicate efforts in code. It makes code messy when you duplicate code in different places. So draft planners created actually.
So I have a question about that. So does that mean that the amount of open space can be infringed on after the house is built and then somebody puts an ADU in the backyard?
Well,
Or is that open space still required? I'm just trying to figure out.
so
if there's
the private open space, 100 square feet would be required.
a- Okay.
Again, lot coverage, if you build an ADU over top of it, you're still at 50%.
Right. Okay, so it's really gonna prohibit ADUs, which is good, probably
No.
for a small
You
house.
can attach it
Oh,
or make
Unless
it a
they've
lot
already
bigger and do something right.
Yeah.
But they still have to have the 50%.
so do you imagine that these lots, which are starting out fairly small, smaller than most anything we have in the town right now? Are they gonna be building, like, do a single family residence, would the house be built to maximize the 50% coverage, or are you thinking they might,
They
they
don't-
have the option to do?
They really don't do that now.
Yeah, well, but this
You
is a
know.
really small lot.
Sure. I mean, if I were the builder, I would be looking at all the options to try to maximize because, but I'd also be looking at what's the market bearing. Because if I build something that's too big, nobody's gonna buy it. Understood. The market's not demanding for that. So that, to me, these real estate for the builders are very market savvy. And they don't like to build things that's not going to sell in a timely manner because they don't want to carry that debt service for very long. So they'll build it to what markets demand. Okay. Number 10, 4.3, single family attached, minimum width for lots with shared wall on both sides should be 26 feet. Minimum lot width for alley access for lots should be 32 feet. Minimum private open space should be 200 square feet with a minimum width of and depth of 10 feet. And staff's recommending retaining width proposed. We've done quite a bit of analysis on this in the Daybreak development in Utah that we kind of modeled a lot of this from. And so there's opportunities there that could happen that would be very restricted if this code was adopted. That's Mr. Smart's proposed.
Were you just talking about number 11?
Number 10.
Number 10,
Yeah.
I should have printed.
We did quite a bit of analysis. Roscoe and I sat down. We had quite a bit of conversation as well with the Teague's engineer who does a lot of developments in the community and subdivisions to make sure that these lot widths and depths were appropriate for future development. We're not in the back. We're talking to people that do this from it. Number 11, 4.4 duplex, multiplex, minimum width should be 66 feet. Minimum open space should be 250 contiguous square feet per unit with a minimum width of depth of 10 feet. Again, we did quite a bit of analysis on these things, did not do it in the vacuum, and they're recommending retain.
So for that one, I just want to mention that I actually was using the photo that you sent, which I know isn't dimensioned. But I added up the reasonable dimensions of this either bedroom or living room, the front entryway, what looks like maybe a bathroom closet, and then 2 garages and the space between them and so forth. And added the necessary setbacks, and that's where I came up with that suggestion, because that was, now maybe they would build a different configuration. But if you go with the dimensions that you got, they would have a hard pressed to put that thing on that lot.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
But
just want to bring that out to the group, because we're not looking at apples to apples there.
duplexes can also be stacked on top of
They
each
do.
other.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
giving people options here. Number 12, again, duplexes and multiplex, accessory dwelling, it should require accommodation for additional on-site parking. As stated previously, that's already covered in the parking code. Table 1757-2. 13, 4.5, cottage housing per the layout shown to accommodate 600 square foot dwellings. The minimum lot width should be 110 feet, the minimum lot depth should be 120. I'm gonna let the developers figure out what their lot widths and depths are gonna be. I don't need to place a minimum really on these because of how they are developed out. They're gonna put, in the 20 plus years I've done this, cottage housing has been one of these cool things that people talk about in the planning world. Nobody does them. Nobody.
Yeah, they're not profitable.
No, that's not from what I see, right? I mean, I had one project that was, so close to being actually built. And then the 2008 hit and it disappeared and went away. And I've never, ever, ever seen anybody come and say, I've never seen one, I mean, I've seen a couple in the community, but honestly don't know if it worked for them. And, I don't know. But again, to put minimum lot widths and depths on these, I don't even know if we need to, because like you're saying, John, if they're gonna put these things in, they usually stack them on one property, get an acre, and they stack like half a dozen or a dozen homes, have a parking lot for everybody to park on, then you walk into your cute little 800, 1200 square foot cottage or whatever it is, you know. Again, not recommending making any substantive changes in that. If someone doesn't want to do it, I don't want to be the code that gets in the way.
Yeah, I looked at that and looked at your configuration that you showed there.
Yeah.
And with those lot dimensions, those houses, those little cottages would only be something closer to like 400 square feet with some kind of reasonable space between them. And you could do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
but there's sometimes where you have lot configurations where you don't get to put a square lot down.
yeah.
You gotta do a triangle, and so the entrance is on a triangle, like the peak of the triangle, and you gotta have that, that's where we count the lot width sometimes. So again, if the developer wants to crash in cottage housing, he'll do that minimum lot width and depth and won't put on it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
The next one, number 14, minimum open area per unit should be 300 square feet with minimum width and depth of 10 feet. It's 100 square feet per unit. So again, if they're putting multiple units there, it starts to add up pretty quickly as far as how much open space they're going to provide. And minimum width and depth of 8 feet. They're likely going to be, minimum width maybe 8, but then the length may be longer in order to accommodate some open space though. So again, not trying to be too prescriptive here, being able to allow some flexibility for developers and what they can do to make their product financially feasible and work. Number 15, are all private open space areas considered as contiguous block shape, or are the skinny paths considered as part of the area? I don't know that I've ever really seen a square private open space. Usually some polygon shape, and so again, not trying to make it prescriptive, but I think that we will take a look at it and count areas that are contiguous for sure. But there may be situations where it's not contiguous, where you have a front yard that's open space and a rear yard that's open space. 16, 413.2, page 4-25. Buffer landscaping must be maintained perpetually. Does the mason fence go between the facility and the landscape, or between the landscape and the surrounding property, or somewhere in between? And my response on that one depends on the security needs of the development. If they need to have that fence up against the rear side or up against the city right-of-way side. So depending on what their need is, and how that would be configured.
So I would prefer, I have two things here to say. One is my initial opinion, which didn't get recited, but I really think a lot of this, maybe this industrial code might be the one that the city has the most purview over, but the rest of these could be handled with an HOA or a land covenant placed by the landowner if this is what they want to deem get developed. Well, let's go back to this. You're talking about potentially an industrial facility, and it could be several hundreds or thousands of feet long. And so the question is when you drive by that, are you going to see an 8-foot masonry wall? Or are you going to see maybe a 3-foot chain link fence and then all sorts of nice landscaping and then the masonry wall for security, right? That was my point. And if we're going to set these regulations in this document, is that an opportunity to get, like our previous mayor always said, what we want our city to look like. So I just want to bring that out for consideration. Or are you okay with having an 8-foot wall alongside the sidewalk for 1,000 or 2,000 feet? For the light industrial area that we're thinking.
So much for keeping up.
I was gonna say, don't, there's that one, come on.
Yeah, I know, right? That's exactly, well, that's blocking columns. And here we've got a requirement. Listen, it's not that funny, really. You've got a requirement to take an industrial facility and force them to put in all this beautiful landscaping. And don't let anybody see it. It's like, well, what's the point?
Industrial lands in favor of.
So I don't know. I just want to bring that up. It may not be I don't know how you negotiate that in the future. It probably could or couldn't be put in this code, but it struck me that
If there's enough people saying that we want the fence on the opposite side of the landscaping and not up against the road, then that's something I would definitely look at. and consider.
I think you probably need.
There's zero, just for phase one, there is zero light industrial zone phase one. But that doesn't mean that there won't be a light industrial project that happens in the future.
Yeah, I wasn't clear that this was just for phase one, because it just said in this Park Ranch.
Well, if you have a light industrial who would like to be very secure, they would probably prefer the block fence with and the arborvitae on their side of the block wall instead of on the street side for someone to hide in and try and climb the block wall. So,
That's,
which way are you gonna go on that one? I would prefer the arborvitae on the street side, but I think it's something that should be left up for the, light industrial. For them to pick which way they want it, because,
so I wasn't suggesting that the landscaping would be right up against the block wall if they put the wall on the street, next to the street. What I was suggesting actually is that if they want a masonry wall, it can be, set back 50 or 100 feet, and they can still have a chain link fence, which is cheap, along the sidewalk, so that.
you can't have it on the side back, there's a setback for fencing.
Well, whatever the setback is, 10 feet, whatever. Doesn't matter. The point is that you would be able to see the landscaping that we're forcing them to put in. Instead of putting a concrete wall between us and all this beautiful landscaping we're forced to maintain for perpetuity. That was my only point. If we allow them to put an 8-foot wall.
Remember the old red and green cards? This show about.
Well, but there was.
So I can't tell.
Yeah.
Remember your red and green cards? Right. So. Thumb up if you think that the fence should be on the property side.
We're talking fence or block wall.
Maybe more
Block wall. Block wall on the property owner side and not up against the right of way.
So not up against the road.
Not up against the right of way, it's up against the parking lot, say.
But to qualify this is presuming we're still requiring them to put in. Because this was like multi-layers of trees. It wasn't just a row of arborvitae.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure we have the right picture in our minds before we start voting on this. So, yeah.
So up against the parking lot or up against the right of way? Up against the parking lot, thumbs up.
Yeah, up against the parking lot.
Okay.
You don't have the landscaping on the outside of it.
Yeah, so it says buildings.
Side up against the
To
right.
me, it's, do they want the employees to enjoy it or the rest of the citizens? Let the employees enjoy it then.
Hey, I have a question though, but isn't the setback is from the right of way, correct, not to the sides?
Setback is from the right of way.
So there could be 5 feet behind the sidewalk, then another 10 feet, and then the block wall,
Well, we're talking about 200 foot.
or the
That's
fence.
the code changes.
I thought there was I thought we were talking about 200 foot.
Landscaping.
But
200 feet, not 5 or 10.
Yeah, it's 200 foot wide.
Right.
Depending on.
So this is like a park.
Right.
We're talking about green grass with trees and pine trees and arborvitae.
Yeah, good job. We
In
got,
the
let's
desert.
let's
In the
try to
desert.
move along.
Oh, is it desert? That's not,
Yeah.
I want to clear this up. Is it desert or is it
It's gonna
landscape?
be, it's going to be a mixture of trees that's gonna provide a screen that could include evergreen deciduous trees, but we're gonna be promoting and encouraging landscaping that doesn't require a lot of water because of Century Lake. Okay? So,
Basically what we have now.
so the good news is, like Ross was whispering to me, there's none of this in phase one.
We got time.
We've got time to
Good time.
rework this if we need to make it exactly what we want it to be.
We
Eric,
talked
could
about.
just add one thing?
Share the landscape, both sides.
Right, yeah.
Right, Casey.
Okay.
I think it might be beneficial for us to check in with some of our development community experts to see if they would have concerns about having the fence closer to the parking lot, you know, from like a management of private space perspective.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
And I also just wanted to comment on what you said earlier about whether or not this sub-area code would apply to the full sub-area. My understanding, at least the way we've got it written to be proposed for adoption, is that it would apply to the full sub-area. However, the level of development outside of phase one wouldn't be possible in most cases because of the lack of available sewer and water. So the regulations would go into effect and would be applicable to the full sub area, but what could in reality get built there would be very limited by available utility services.
Thank you, Casey. All right, number 15, let's see, where are we at? Yeah, 15. Are all private open spaces areas considered as contiguous? Oh, sorry. Where are we?
You can do that one.
We're on 17, 5.1.1, page 5-2. Are sidewalks not placed in the public right of way? It would be nice to show the fence location and the cross sections. And the sidewalks are actually on the private property owners for within the MXR, that mixed use residential. A lot of that was working with Public Works on utility easement. So there's a 12-foot wide utility easement. Instead of pushing the homes in that zone back 12 feet before they could start building the house, we moved that property line over to include the sidewalk within their property now. So instead of having this larger setback requirement, we've just moved the property line over to make it so that it works still. Roscoe's allowing for utilities to go under the sidewalk with this, rather before they weren't, they were outside the sidewalk. So,
I mean, whether the sidewalk's in the right of way or in a sidewalk easement, the abutting property owner is responsible for the maintenance of it. So this, but we're really the 12-foot wide is get all the utilities in, and then we have bulb outs for their above ground boxes. So by putting a combined sidewalk utility easement, we save 5 feet.
Is that? Yeah, so that's, true for each zone, or that's?
Every zone.
every zone can do that, but it really is focused for that mixed use residential.
What utilities are going in that 12-foot?
Charter, Sibley,
Veterinary,
Benton REA, sometimes you have to
Cascade, natural gas.
natural
Okay,
gas,
so
they have.
the water and sewer is still going in the street?
Yeah, it's all in the street. Irrigation will be in the street too.
So my question had to do with the fence line, so the fence wouldn't be allowed to be on the, obviously the road side of the side. She's got to be on the inside.
That's a great question, Ross, when I've talked about this, because I know you spent a lot of time on this.
I mean,
So-
seems obvious.
So they've got to plan for it when their plat comes in, so we can account for it, because no, I won't let you put a fence in the middle of the utility easement. Unless it's planned for in advance, then we can work with the utility. So if they want to put the fence up against the sidewalk, then we can accommodate that in the pre-plat up front to say that where it's allowed, and the utilities know not to put give them a 1 foot buffer behind the back for a fence line. And so the utilities aren't there. But we were gonna require that up front. So if they go through and plat it, don't plant it, and then come in, they're gonna go up the back of the access, or excuse me, utilities.
Yeah, so just be clear here, so the house side of the sidewalk is, I don't have it in front of here, is that's Actually, the right of way was on the street side of the side.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
okay.
what was the thought process of moving the utilities to behind the curb and gutter instead of behind the sidewalk?
the utilities are still,
It used to be the utility,
the right of way used to go all the way 2 feet behind the sidewalk, and then you had 12-foot utilities in there. So what we're doing is narrowing up the right of way and overlapping the sidewalk easement with the utility easement. So
So-
it narrows the,
So you didn't like the utilities going behind the sidewalk in the normal, so now you're moving the sidewalk and putting the utilities behind the curb and gutter, correct?
no,
No, no.
the utilities are
Casey,
still,
can you pull up the cross sections?
Yeah.
the utilities are still on the house side of the sidewalk,
Oh, that I, oh, really?
See, that's,
just like they are now,
yeah,
Wow.
just like they are now.
Just to clarify, you're wanting the frontage types pulled up?
you're putting the
Yeah.
sidewalk on private property now.
It's in the utilities or utility sidewalk easement. And again, whether it's in the right of way, right now, it's in the right of way. You as a property owner maintain it.
Right, we know that. Well, I don't.
So here's the street. Yep. Right, right here. Got curb and gutters right here. We got 5 foot of landscaping so that we can plant
Mm-hmm.
desert friendly trees or bushes there. Cause those aren't gonna work, I don't think, right? You got 5 foot of sidewalk, but this is the property line. And what we had before was the property line was on this side of the sidewalk by 6 to 12 inches. And
Well, 2
then,
feet to 7
and then
feet.
you'd have 12 feet of utility easement that was a no-build zone, right? So what we did is so that the houses didn't have to be pushed back so far off of the street, we could have them closer. As we push this over here, and now Roscoe's letting those utilities to be counted in that 5 foot. So the sidewalk and utilities are able to be in that same 5 feet. It's all on the property,
Outside of the right of way.
outside the right.
So,
But you will not put a fence at the right of way line.
no, you can't now.
Yeah, you can't put a fence on the right of way line, it's gotta be behind the sidewalk, but we didn't wanna put, we don't, like Ross was saying, we also don't want to have a fence post going in and poking into
Right.
a power line, for instance. That would give someone quite a shock, so.
So if they
we're gonna
want to
work
put
with them
the,
when
they want to
come
put the
in
fence.
plat, so that we give up the utility easements knowledge that there's 1 foot per fence there.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna put their
How wide's the sidewalk?
fiber line or whatever right underneath that 1 foot.
How wide is the sidewalk?
5 feet.
So yeah, so essentially, if you allow them to put a fence there, you're taking 6 feet off of your utility easement. Is that the plan? No.
No, it's still there.
It's still there. Well, I mean, they're not allowed to use it.
Veterinary could throw their power line.
Okay,
the sidewalk.
okay.
That's okay, right? Then they could put their fence and then the other utilities could put theirs in behind the fence.
Yeah.
That's okay.
The developer will have to know that's where they want to put their fence is on the backside of the house. Otherwise, they will be 7 feet away from the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Very similar to how it is now.
I'm just wondering, I can't remember now, what is the size in this and the area where the utility easement is gonna be? Where does it start?
12 feet from the right of way.
Okay, so which way?
Towards the house.
Okay, so 12 feet, so 7 feet past the 5 feet sidewalk,
Correct.
going all the way to the right of way?
All across us, adjacent to it.
So it's 12 feet measured from here to wherever 12 feet is.
Okay, and
right?
then from
'Cause
there
that's-
to,
That's 5 feet, that's 5 feet, and so it's probably where that tree is, that's 12 feet.
right,
Okay,
uh-huh.
so
So
that's
it's
your 12
just
foot,
in that
that's your
12
12
foot.
foot easement.
That's it, just the 12 foot, okay, that's all I needed to know.
Plus the water and sewer that's in the street, but that's separate.
That's separate.
Yeah,
So would that
don't
be-
mix things up, John.
Yeah.
The liquids are in the street.
Liquids are-
Stop
Sure,
this.
tries.
The dries are in the
Yeah.
restaurant.
The dries are there, liquids are
Would
there.
that be an easement on the property?
Just like it is now.
Yeah, it is now.
The only thing is, instead of being labeled a 12-foot utility, it'll be a 12-foot utility and sidewalk easement. They're overlap.
So will there be any restrictions on, I mean, I don't know, I just keep, these are beautiful trees in these illustrations, but you're really not gonna be too wise to do that. Yeah, it's gonna die out, right?
Yeah, that is there for
I'm just saying like,
Aesthetics.
it would be a bad idea
graphics that way.
to plant trees on top of your utilities.
If
They
they're
do it all the
desert
time.
friendly, if they're desert friendly, they're not gonna go this way, they're gonna go that way.
Same pressure.
Okay, we're gonna cut that question ahead, John, don't jump
Deep
ahead.
taproot.
Okay.
So the next question is, John, how do we keep tree roots from damaging roads and sidewalks?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So, Public Works has Public Works standards, which they currently have, but they're not something we have to gin up for this project, but we require root barrier to be installed when you plant a tree within those areas, next to the sidewalks and the curbs and gutters in the street, right? So that limits the tree's ability to go out and buckle up those things. We also have limitations on what you can plant. So we're not gonna let you plant certain trees that automatically go out, but we want them to go down, so we have tree species that we've approved for sidewalk that go down.
So since these yards are so small, this is private property once they get bought. Are you expecting there to be a HOA or something that continues this regulation? Because, or is it like the city gonna say, hey, you can't
Well,
plant that sycamore in your front yard?
So that's not the front yard.
Oh, okay.
That's the 5 foot easement on the street side of the right of way.
Between the sidewalk and the
Between
back.
this curb and gutter and the sidewalk, there's 5 foot.
Yeah,
landscape strip.
Right.
That's in the right of way.
Okay.
So we're gonna
That's
maintain
yours.
that, well, property owner is gonna maintain it, but we have code that tells them they have to maintain it and make sure that it stays nice.
And what trees
So if
are
something
approved.
goes wrong and they buckle that curb with their tree because they didn't put the right one in, then they get to go and fix it because it's on them.
I guess
That's the way code reads today.
yeah, that's great. So you've got this 17-foot yard. I mean, I think that it just strikes me as a potential problem if we don't have some sort of code that prevents people from planting that same sycamore tree on the other side of the sidewalk without the root barrier or whatnot. It's their problem. We all get to fix
We do it
that.
all the time and that's stuff that we have to deal with.
Wow.
And they get sent a bill
And they get, yeah.
and get to fix the sidewalk.
Okay.
All right. Moving along,
Okay.
I'm trying to get to all of them before Mr. Stoker has to leave at 7 o'clock this evening. I want to respect his time. So number 19, 6.2, street network, alleys, driveways, 3 cul-de-sacs should not be discouraged. Cul-de-sacs, especially typical or rectangular, elliptical or rectangular, in a detached family neighborhood are desirable to many families. Bump outs are also desirable on residential roads. So there's currently, we have a gridded street network policy and our comprehensive plan, which I've included the policy from the comprehensive plan in there that discourages cul-de-sac use unless there is topography or other things that make it difficult to make that connection. So if there's the hill drops off and it's more than a 10% grade, we're gonna let them do a cul-de-sac at the top of that, or if they're not able to go on a diagonal. So current policy in our comprehensive plan is to discourage cul-de-sacs and promote graded street patterns.
It's very family unfriendly, I'm all say. People have heard that before, so I'll stop repeating it.
Number 26.3.1, block general standards, page 6-2, 4A. Should state that MXR mid-block connections must be placed no more than 600 feet apart. And I talked with Public Works. We also talked with the development engineer on this, who's done this in other communities, and we believe that would be too prescriptive. We want to make sure that there's some flexibility there for them to locate it. It states there that if it's over this length,
Over
we have to go
1200
in, and
That's
then
what we need.
they would work with us on where that is. Because if there's, the whole idea that we came up with in this discussion we had with the development engineer was, is what if there's a park across the street over there that if it's more than 600 feet away, but that's where you want that line is across from the park so that they can make that connection. So again, we believe it's too prescriptive. We'll work through it at development time of the development.
It is something we have to work through, because I agree with you, but I also don't agree that just saying if it's more than 1,200 feet, you have to have one. It's very,
Well, we
I mean,
talked about
that's tough.
language, John, and I think there's text in there that talks about tying it with uses. So if there's a bus
Okay.
stop on the other side of the arterial, we wanna try to line those up.
Right.
So,
And if you look at what they have in Richland, it's just on the other side of the bypass. They have these in that neighborhood quite a bit. You can pull up Google Earth and look at them. So, and they have them all lined up together so that it's kind of this linear line. And so again, just, we don't want to make it so prescriptive that they couldn't do something like that that makes us work within an entire neighborhood.
You're saying the text is in there that indicates.
That's what we talked about, yeah.
Okay. That indicates, assessing that situation.
Yeah, destinations that you're gonna,
Okay.
people would want to utilize it, so it gave us the flexibility to line those up as needed.
Yeah, if you don't do that, then people will just make a beeline through the grass and create a path. Or we can just make all
Number
that,
21,
figure out where it has to be.
7.2, public open space, exhibit 10 pages, page 7-15, how much parking area will be required to serve these squares and other open spaces? Public free parking should be shown in any plan. So is the amount of park required is established in our LOS for parks. The parking standard requirements we have in the code. And the amount of parking for a park isn't in there. So if you want to add, you need to have so many parking stalls per square feet for a public park, we can take a look at that. Typically, that's considered when the park design goes before the park board or in the planning commission for a subdivision, for instance, to take a look at there to make sure that there's some reasonable consideration for public parking of those facilities.
Could we put a sentence in there that references that you just said?
It probably should go in our existing municipal code, so it's citywide.
Yeah.
But I caution you that it's very. Trying to set a hard line.
Yeah.
For different uses for a park.
Yeah.
It's probably better to review it when the park comes in, what's the use, what's the demand.
Okay.
Because a sports complex with sports fields will need more based on that size versus just open space.
And it really wouldn't make sense even just to set a minimum, because some parks don't need park.
And when you build a park, it requires council approval for accepting that park.
So I think we catch that
So
that time.
allowing for staff, if we do this right, we'd be consulting with some park designer, for instance, to make sure that there's sufficient parking.
For the intended use.
So you get in as a prescriptive, you might get the minimum, well, this is what your code requires, and we're like, well, we need more, because we already know we're gonna need more.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw that there were these green spaces, which are all very nice, in the middle of the boulevard or something, and, but no accommodation for parking like.
But the arterials have roadside parking. That's one of the big changes.
Oh, the arterials have roadside, okay, because otherwise you had businesses facing those parks that stated in.
And there's parking, curbside parking there too for that.
But yeah, but they're hopefully being used for businesses, and so I don't know, it just seemed like there would need to be some sort of nearby parking available. Obviously, you can't put parking in that square very easily. Although, maybe you could, if it's adequately planned, right, so.
We'll cross that bridge when the parks come in and start getting designed.
And when those squares get designed.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of like,
But as a neighborhood park, I'm not gonna require any parking at all, because it's for the neighborhood, right?
yeah, but
And if someone wants to visit that neighborhood park, they can come and park on the street or visit that park. There should be sufficient parking on the street, because it is public parking on the street.
Neighborhood, in our code, neighborhood parks don't have parking. They're purposely set up to walk or bike too.
Right.
It's not till we get to the community or regional park level.
I've seen these squares before in cities, and a lot of times they'll do, nose in parking along this strip of grass that's between the north and southbound lanes. With the statues and the trees and the park benches.
Yeah, all right. And last comment that we have to look at from John this evening, that's been provided to date, are fence communities allowed? They are not expressly prohibited. It could be considered with consultation with the development department, public works department, Benton County Fire District 4, and so if someone wanted to do one, I haven't seen one done that's not a mobile home park. In the Tri-Cities, I haven't seen one yet, but I've come across, so we might see one, but it's not for expressly prohibited. But the only gated communities I've seen in the Tri-Cities are mobile homes.
So then just in general, I have one last question about this, and that is the, are the design of the homes, whether they be multifamily or single family, none of those designs are necessarily touched in this regulation at this time. I mean, it's just the setbacks and and the utilities, the easements, the general lot layout, right?
So when we met and spoke, a couple weeks back for a few hours and going over this, that was one of the questions you had. And, Jordan Teagues is here, and Roscoe and I met with him, and they are in favor of going ahead, and I've shown this to some of you, but this is the residential design guidelines that were developed for Daybreak, Utah. The city doesn't touch these. They don't regulate these, this has nothing to do with the city's regulations. This is all done by the Master Homeowner Association for Daybreak neighborhood. And this is something that the Teagues says is considering taking on for themselves to apply across city, across their master plan. But the city has no interest at this time of making these standards something similar to this, but it's, thicker, I think it's thicker than our design standards for businesses and to be honest, so.
Which I'm in favor of, that is their business, it's their lane.
Yep, they've mentioned that that's something that they want to do. I realize that it would be like squeezing a camel through the eye of a needle if, I was to try to make this part of this plan, so I'm not interested in it, and I think that it would probably suit the city better that way.
Okay. So my question is all this development, especially the, housing, they're all gonna be HOAs?
I mean, if they have one of these, if they have this, then there's gonna have to be some kind of HOA that
Okay,
manages this and does all of this.
Because of the shared drive,
But
the alleyways,
Yep.
who's gonna take care of that?
not Roscoe.
Well, that's it, I know Roscoe, he wouldn't touch it. I had an alley behind my house and he never touched it.
And she's not upset about it at all.
But I live in a tap deal. The concern, you know, I don't want to set the city up for, especially city council up for angry people here because, there were 4 houses on a shared driveway, no HOA, and who's gonna plow if it snows, who's gonna plow it?
Yeah.
And same way with alleys, and I'd like to know, how's it taken care of up on, above,
Candy Mountain,
huh?
Candy Mountain's out.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's each
are
one.
those all HOAs?
I don't know if it's HOA, but when it was set up, each of them owns 1/36 of that tract.
Mm-hmm.
So they all owned it, and I don't know if they do it through an HOA.
I rented one of those homes, full disclosure, I rented a home up there that had that ownership of it, just nobody ever went, oh, that, or did anything with it, they just waited for the snow to melt.
The language
Just
makes
like all
each
the
of them
different-
responsible,
So,
and it made it clear it's not the city.
Well, I'd like to make sure that it's clear that the city's not responsible, but then again, you can still do that. And if the first time we get one of those snows we've had in the past, and it's a shared, 4 houses on a shared driveway, you're gonna get 4 homeowners here complaining to the city why they're not plowing. I would
It'll
like
be on their,
to
it'll be on
sell
their
it.
flag, it'll be on the
Okay.
flag, their responsibility.
Well,
It'll be a good opportunity for them to meet their neighbors, decide how they're going.
hopefully it's not with a gun.
Checking before you buy.
Yeah, check, well, you know, when you come in for the building permit, that should be addressed at that time, they should be informed of that.
well, actually, it's typically at time of plat, so when they come in with a plat, for instance, the Heights at Red Mountain. Heights at Red Mountain, that's a whole entire HOA.
Yeah.
And it's all one big HOA, and they deal with it, all of their stuff is through them. We've got, through the plat, they have to maintain the landscaping and the trails that are through that subdivision because of how the plat is written, and there's a HOA requirement for them to do that.
But me as a prospective homeowner, I am not gonna have a plat in my hand when I come to the city to get a building permit.
No, you'll have it when you go buy your lot or your home from the title company, read the documents.
Okay, now.
If I can add, Eric,
It's all there, read it,
if I,
I lost election because two women did not
Yeah, it's,
look at the plat, did not look at the,
it's
look at that
there.
information.
Yeah.
Huh?
If I can add a sentence here.
Go ahead, Amazing.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So, yeah, I was just gonna say that this shared driveway, this is being used in Kennewick, both in Kennewick and Richland. And if I remember correctly, Kennewick does not require separate HOA for shared driveways like this.
Okay.
The other thing too to mention on that, Nancy, is that it's not gonna be dedicated right away. There's shared driveway. That's not gonna be dedicated right away. That's gonna show that that's the city's and they're gonna come in and say, Rob's you need to come and plow my right away. It's gonna be a private property that's got an easement on it for access and utilities or whatever, right? So it's, I know, there's people who are not always reasonable and they
They're
don't
not
always read
smart.
and understand what things say. But how they can do so much to write code so well, tell people along before they're lost and they're lost cause.
And just to say, that's my exact same concern I have with planting sycamore trees in your 17-foot front yard with utilities right there.
Well,
It's this, they're not gonna know. So I think it's just gonna be, you're not talking about people who are used to owning, acreage. They're gonna just like, hey, this looks like a good tree in Walmart to put in my front yard.
But it's not the first, usually the first homeowner that inherits it.
Yeah.
It's usually the second or third one that gets the problem.
then let's go to shared open spaces. If they're not HOAs, who mows, who irrigates?
These
And
are all gonna be HOA, they have to have,
you just said that
They're
there's
gonna
no
have to have
guarantee
something.
that
They'll
they're
have
all
to be-
HOAs.
it will be with the plat condition, who's maintaining it,
Who?
at HOA.
And 10 years down the road, they vote that HOA out of existence,
Well, they abandoned.
or they abandoned it.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, the trend right now is to not do HOAs because of the anger that's out there across the United States, on HOAs, and there are a lot of state
So what's your
legislatures
solution,
are
Nancy?
legislating.
What's your solution?
What?
You want the city to maintain it? We don't maintain our parks as it is. Again, it goes on.
Wait a second, you don't maintain your park?
No, we don't pay to maintain them, no, not the level of service you've adopted. So you buy in a property into a neighborhood that is an HOA, you own the property, it's your responsibility. If they let it go to hell, then yeah, it'll be code enforcement, it'll be code enforcement against each one of those property owners. It's about being an adult, you can't do everything, everyone wants government to do everything for them.
So.
You don't wanna pay the taxes on it.
Okay, so we allow private roads development? Yes. Okay, and so we're gonna require these standards on private roads.
The minimum for fire.
We gave, on the alleyways, there are standards, if they put that in, we do
For
have
fire.
standards for alleyways. For alleyways.
So I'm.
Or private, or shared driveways.
Where's the company on Tuesday? That's all private road.
Yeah.
Where is, I don't know what you're doing.
The road.
Yeah, the multifamilies are all private roads, all maintained by them.
Okay, so the roads crap out, fall apart, and they aren't to our current standards.
No.
That's.
They're designed to meet for a fire truck.
We're planning on allowing that here, correct?
For alleyways.
In certain situations.
Shared driveways, yeah.
Okay, and come back, coming off the curve on College, you have your, right. 3 houses.
They're all over town now.
And so do the setback standards, they don't apply to, if somebody has a 5-acre lot and want to build 20 homes or whatever's allowed. And they want to make that a private access road to get into there.
Setbacks out the right way.
For their private roads are still enforceable, even though it's.
No, we don't do the setbacks on the private.
All right, so like if they have a 200, 150 foot road that goes in and accesses.
They won't be like that, then it's be fire code.
Well, whatever the number is, 60-foot road that goes.
Yeah,
in.
So it's not gonna be 5 acres, John, it's gonna probably be more like 1 acre, 2 acre or whatever, if they're gonna do a shared deal off of like that.
And my question
And the setbacks are gonna be measured off the property line.
for the utility access and sidewalks or maybe not. I guess what I'm asking is if somebody develops a private piece of property with homes like we saw depicted here with a sidewalk and a road and the landscaping between and so forth. These standards don't apply to them if that's all private property and they're developing that as a private.
Because within the Wilson Park grants, these development standards apply.
Yeah, okay. Period. All right. Whether it's a public road or a private road accessing those homes. Okay.
Well, the homes will all access off a public street, whether they have a shared driveway that looks like a cul-de-sac,
Right.
that's theirs to maintain.
Right. And yeah, so if they have this non-public cul-de-sac. My question is, do they still have to abide by these, I mean, the utilities are still gonna have to be able to get into these homes.
Yeah.
And so I just want to see if that's the standards of setbacks and
All that stuff.
and sidewalk and.
I'd be happy to sit down with you and draw a picture of what that could look like and how that would apply.
It was just, it doesn't apply or doesn't. That's all.
It doesn't apply.
Okay,
The development regulations still apply, the setbacks still apply, they can make it happen, it all works wonderfully.
that's fine, I'm saying it's
Example, I
not
can
a
show
public
you
street.
How it looks,
Yeah.
with even property lines and how they work. But all that, so the private driveway that comes off of it to access the 6 or 8 homes.
Mhm.
Is just that, it's a private driveway, the property lines go down typically the middle of that driveway somewhere. And then the cross homes, property lines come and kiss each other in the middle, right?
Right.
But that driveway goes down the middle, kind of does a rollout or whatever it needs to do to reach everybody, right? All of that's private owned. It's all privately maintained. They can run the utilities up the middle of that thing if they want to and put it underneath that driveway if they want to.
Okay.
They can access them off of the streets if it's more convenient for them at
Okay.
the time of development. All of these regulations for setbacks and stuff though, they're still the same. They're not gonna change for that development. You still have setbacks off of the street, off of the side yards, off of whatever, off the rear yards. But they've got the shared driveway that comes off the back and they can access with that. And it works. There's examples of it, we've never seen it.
And there is actually an example of that in the, I don't know what else to call it other than the Stone Street neighborhood, right? There is,
Yeah, there's a couple.
right there on the edge of it, there's one
Because
where
of the
they have.
topography, they've got their garages in the back,
Mhm.
the homes are up front, they drive up the steep driveway in the back,
Yes,
and then they split off into the 2 garages.
right, yeah.
One last concern I have is Vanessa mentioned that the zoning map is in the code, not referenced from the code.
Oneza, is the zoning map in the code? I would think that we're just adopting that when we adopt all of this by ordinance and adopting it as the new zoning map, when we get to that point, just like we would normally do with any zoning map. Is that correct, Casey, Oneza?
We were recommending to add the zoning map to the code, but it is an adopted map. It is going to be an adopted map in the sub-area plan anyways.
Yeah, I would just add to that, I think on page 2.8, we refer to the city's official zoning map, but we also show in the code the zoning for the sub-area. So the city's official zoning map is still the only official zoning map. The image that we have in the sub-area code is more of an exhibit for reference.
Okay, I see issues with that.
Okay.
We'll have another, where's the zone here? Arguments.
We done?
Any other comments, questions? All right. Your chair.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, everybody. Do have an opportunity for public comments. If you wish to provide any comment, come to the designated little orange sign over there. State your name and city of residence. You'll have 3 minutes to provide your comments. Please remember that council cannot respond to questions during this comment period. Does anybody have any comments from the crowd? Anything there? Okay,
Everybody online?
then we
We're
will
not doing it online, so.
not do that one. Conclude this meeting at 7:09. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
So